Like most of us, because of the coronavirus outbreak, I'm stuck at home. As a 15-year-old, I wasn't quite expecting this to be my life as a teenager. Curious about what the world looks like amid the pandemic, I'm talking with people who are on the front lines, helping our society get through this difficult time. Sharing their stories gives me hope, while I'm 15 and quarantined.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of 15 in Quarantine. Today we have Mr. Naumann Chaudry with us. Mr. Chaudry works with the company Gilead. Mr. Chaudry, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So, hi, my name is Naumann Chaudry. As you mentioned, I do work for Gilead. I'm a pharmacist by trade, and I've spent the last 8 years working in what's called the Regulatory Affairs Department in a variety of roles at the company.
So can you tell us a little bit about your work at Gilead?
Sure. So I have the privilege of leading two very distinct teams within the within the Global Regulatory Affairs Department. And so I think just take a step back. Regulatory Affairs is a group that typically serves as a conduit between the company as well as with health authorities around the globe. So that includes the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, that includes European regulators, Japan, many of the other regions. And so the idea is that, across all of our products, regulatory affairs serves as the point of contact.
So how has the pandemic impacted your job?
Oh, so it's had a significant impact. So one, I think personally, I feel very fortunate. I feel very fortunate that I've been able to, I don't have the same plight as unfortunately many people in the country have. So I've been able to work from home. My team members have been able to work from home. And so I would say that while that has had an impact, it's probably much more of a inconvenience than it has been more than anything else.
So how has the pharmaceutical industry been impacted at large?
So I think the impact has been similar to what I was saying, that with respect to, there's the business side, and then there's the side about making sure that patients who are being chronically, who are taking their meds chronically, right, for ongoing conditions. I think there's efforts about, so whether it's type 2 diabetes, whatever it might be, oncology, right? I think there's this unintended consequence that all of us have come to understand, that our patients being seen, the adoption of telemedicine is happening, but I think we're also concerned around, to the degree that it can happen. There are parts of the country that are, that have been impacted differently than others. But I think ultimately you're trying to say, okay, there's the pandemic, but then how are patients? Are they being seen by their physician or their healthcare professional? Are they able to get their meds? Are they able to stay on therapy? So on and so forth, right? I mean, I think we all know people who were supposed to have procedures done, have other things done. And a lot of those were, postponed or delayed. So I think there's always sort of that aspect. And for us, Gilead's, again, where Gilead's involvement is, we have products in HIV, hepatitis C, hepatitis B, in across a number of different fronts, in other, for other conditions, cardiovascular conditions as well, oncology conditions. So there is that aspect of how can the company help support that. I think on the research and development side, I mean, clearly with the things that are happening there, how can we help support the COVID patients as well, right? And I think what you're seeing is that, I mean, Gilead is, I mean, as we all know, Gilead has been right there with Remdesivir, which is just to clarify on that, it remains an investigational agent in the U.S., which means it's not yet approved. It is authorized for for use in the pandemic, but that's a very specific situation. But it's not approved as we would think about a medication. But I think what it's spoken to is that, we've been sort of building it as we fly it. And I think most companies are having to do that.
So it can take years to come up with an effective vaccine. How hopeful are you that the American pharmaceutical industry will be able to have one by the end of this year?
Well, I think that I think I'm hopeful that we will have um, I believe that we will have a number of candidates that will emerge with promising data. I think as I was saying before, I think the question is going to be that's going to be based on that's going to be based on data of only a few months, which again, from a vaccine standpoint, you tend to look at it, over a longer period of time to see, what's the effect in people, what's the immune response, because you want to have greater confidence, you want to know how long do we dose? Do you need a booster? Do they need it? Like I said, is it seasonal? Is it not? So I think that I'm looking forward to seeing the data towards the year end. But I think that there's going to need to be sort of an understanding of what that data. I mean, that data is only going to tell us so much, but the goal is going to say, does it tell us enough so that we could, move forward to be able to make it available more? Like, do we have enough information? I think that part is right now. I'm not sure, simply because, again, if you're looking at this, you're going to say, okay, we have tested these people. Maybe in 4 to 6 months we might have, right? If they got dosed now, by year end, you'd probably would see, does it work? You would have some data to show at least over a few months. So it'll tell us something, but we also, like I said, I think the science is also going to have to drive our decision making, and also have to be able to say that, can we, will it tell us enough that we can go beyond clinical trials? That part I'm not sure yet.
So my last question is, what is your message of hope for kids and teenagers like me?
Well, I think, when looking at this, I think we've all been learning as we go along with this. I think my short answer up front is going to be that I think each of us have a big role in how we protect ourselves or loved ones. So I think, taking the precautions, I think the idea that age-wise that I might be less susceptible, or if I do unfortunately get it, that I would be asymptomatic. That's probably true to a point, but I think as we're seeing now, we're seeing now spikes in my own state here in California. In other places, we're seeing spikes all throughout. So I think there's certainly more that each of us could do to help with this. I think if the message to young people is to, absolutely take this seriously, if not for you, but for others, that's it's as important, the selfless aspect to this. Because if we don't, then the impact to all of us is going to, the things that are all happening to us now is only going to linger on, right? So until we're able to get treatments, vaccines, and all of that, how can we all minus those? How can we try to get control of this a bit better, given where we are? I think that's really that's really the message, not just for young people, but for everyone, I would say.
Mr. Chaudry, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.